Hey folks, welcome back to another edition of RV with the Tanners. Hey, today we're going to be talking about an upgrade. If you remember 2.5 years ago, if you watched the video, we did a video on the WiFiRanger Elite AC model. And that's a device that sits on top of your RV and allows you to reach out and grab campground Wi-Fi that's further away. At that point, I think it was 1.5 miles reach on the Elite AC. You can watch the video up here on that device. But it got a little older, of course, 2.5 years ago, and I reached out to WiFiRangers and they sent me this new version. What I have now is their Denali model, and there's 3 versions right now. There's the Teton, Denali, and coming soon is Everest. So they sent me the middle of the line version, which I think is going to be just perfect for what we need. As we're not full-time RVers right now and we just camp, in the summer and spring, I think it's perfect. Melinda and I boondock a lot, which means we camp where there's no facilities. So when we do come into town and we stop at a campground that does have Wi-Fi, we're pretty excited to use this device because it allows us to, camp further away in the RV park and still reach out and find the Wi-Fi signals and maybe get updated on, maybe work, maybe, just personal stuff we're trying to do, or maybe post a video, who knows. But the nice thing is we can actually then find either their 2.4 gigahertz or 5 gigahertz band at that RV park and be able to access that and get just a stronger signal. All right, so what comes with it? So the device itself, I'm going to pick it up here. This cable is I think 30 feet long. The nice thing about this cable is it now has a power cord to it. On the previous version, the Elite AC, it worked over PoE, power over Ethernet, but they've gone away from that now and they have just a power adapter that then powers this on your roof. So you mount this on your roof and they want you to have nothing. Don't mount it next to your AC unit. Don't mount it next to something that's maybe you maybe have a dish antenna or something on top of your roof. Don't mount it close to that. They want it like 12 feet away from anything else that could interfere with that. I know that's difficult to find 12 feet around the top of your RV because they're not that large anyway. But do your best and try to get something else not close to it to get you the best performance. Again, you get 30 feet of cable, and then this is the device that sits on top of your roof. Pretty aerodynamic. One of the neat things of what WiFiRangers has done is you'll see this little tray in there, and they've allowed it to be upgradable. And with these upgrades, you can then move your Denali to Everest if you'd like to do so. And that gives you the ability to add 2 LTE cards versus the 1 inside the Denali. It also gives you the 5 gigahertz band on Wi-Fi. Again, I don't think that's important for us because we're going to probably be using the router, and that also has the 5 gigahertz band in that. But if you're interested in that, maybe if you're full-time and you are working from your RV, it'd probably be more beneficial to you to go with the Everest version and get both bands of Wi-Fi. Again, for us, it's not that important because we're not doing a lot of stuff on the road that's dire need of ultimate speed. But when we combine the Denali and our hotspot on the router, I'll show you all that when we get to the actual configuration, it's perfect for us. So realistically, the biggest difference then is the Denali can support up to 300 megabits per second, where the Everest can support up to 1200 megabits per second. That's pretty darn fast. So if you consider what Netflix recommends for Ultra HD 4K streaming, they recommend 25 megabits per second. And if the Denali can support up to 300 megabits per second, you have a lot of extra bandwidth there in order to get, flawless streaming of your content, whatever you want to do. I would recommend the Everest if you're working from home, you've got a family in the RV, and a lot of folks are doing different things. Maybe you got some kids playing games and you're streaming. That might be more beneficial. But again, it's not that important to Melinda and myself. So the next step is to go into and actually configure the WiFiRanger to connect to the campground Wi-Fi, Starbucks Wi-Fi, or wherever you have, whatever's around you. The one thing I want to tell you now is the first time I'm going to go through this, remember earlier I said that you can get the Denali or you can get the Spruce router. I'm going to configure this the first time through showing you without the router connected. So this would be just having the Denali on the roof and connecting wirelessly to that into your RV. So we'll jump into the tool. As you can see here, I've got the Denali only being shown right now. We'll plug in the Spruce router in a while, then it'll come up here. But if you can see where I'm highlighting here with this little circle going in and out, that shows only the Denali being used right now. So if I scanned, I can see all these networks that are in my neighborhood. Now folks, this is going on, I'm recording this during COVID. It's November of 2020, so we're back down in lockdown here in Oregon. So a lot of people, we're not out being able to use our RV Usually we have a lot of good camping here in the fall and early winter in Oregon. That's just simply not the case. A lot of things are shut down. So I'm actually doing this video for you in my home, and the router itself is sitting here in my office pointed out a window. It'd get a lot better performance in a campground, wide open spaces. That's just the way we are in life right now. So again, jumping back to the interface, you can see here that I've got a couple of different connections. This is my connection home, Momo. This is my neighbor, another neighbor, and then this is Yellowknife. It's a kind of a ISP out here where we live that does satellite connections for internet. Another neighbor, and it looks like some neighbor has an HP printer that I can see. So it's got a good way to connect all this. So you can see that the connections are all in. Now remember earlier I told you that the Denali only supports 2.4 gigahertz. So all of these are only 2.4 gigahertz bands. Later when we connect the Spruce router, you'll see the 5 gigahertz bands starting to light up. So if you go into the Wi-Fi here, you can see the next menu over. So Momo 2, here's where it is, and then this is where you would have your information on your password and what kind of connection that it is. I've got mine blurred out. So the one thing that you need to do when you first log into this system and you get it started to set up is you need to come in here and configure this to a name that you like. So the default SSID is this PVT WiFiRanger, WFR, Denali 5903. That's probably just a model number or serial number on this specific one. And then their default password is change me now. So go ahead and do that. I'm not going to do it now just because I want to continue to have the defaults shown to you, but it's very important that you do that. So change this to something that you understand and change it to a password that you understand. And then you'll get it'll broadcast normally. Now, if you're into sharing your Wi-Fi, here's where you would set up a guest network. Let's say you have your RV parked at an park for a couple of weeks, and you're going to have some guests over, but you don't want them to have access to all of your PCs that are on the same network. So you just set up a wireless guest network, and you give them the username and password, and they can be off and running on that. Finally, in the setup window, you can see that I'm using the internal Wi-Fi right now, and then there is no Ethernet connection, so it's not active right now because I've got the Spruce disconnected. Some of the things you can set up here. So failover, if I was to use my hotspot, I would connect that here, and then I would usually go into a failover of a couple of minutes, 5 minutes, 15 minutes are their defaults. If I enable that, it will allow me to do certain different things. So in hot standby or load balancing, I prefer load balancing. So this allows the Wi-Fi and it allows your cellular connection to make a binding pair, sort of like a mesh network. And now I'm using the Wi-Fi from the RV park, and I'm using the ability to, the data that I have on my hotspot, you could be using a cell phone as well, but either one of those two would connect here and then give you an aggregated amount of data throughput to the internet. You might want to do that if you're looking to do something like stream Netflix or Hulu or something like that where you need a lot of bandwidth in order to do it. You need to turn it back off if you're just surfing the web or doing some email. That doesn't take a lot of internet. The nice thing about using the hot standby feature is you can then disconnect your hotspot. So a lot of times folks use their cell phone. So if you just walk away with your cell phone and you forget that you had it connected to your Denali or Spruce, and that wouldn't do you any good because then all of a sudden you'd lose your connection if you were just using the phone. But if you're in hot standby, that works really well because then it disconnects from the phone and then the Wi-Fi from the park just takes over and then it provides 100%. So it allows you that flexibility to go in and out and not do a lot of connectivity. Then let's say you came back a couple hours later back to your RV, your phone gets close, you connect it back up with that USB cable back to the device. Now you have the ability to have that mesh network again. Pretty sweet if you ask me. The next thing we're going to do is I'm going to connect up the Spruce router, and then I'm going to show you where that changes in the interface, so then you'll see both of them. So now looking at the interface for the Spruce and the Denali, so now you see the little arrows going, or the circle going in and out. I'm currently selected with the Spruce, that's the router inside of our RV. If I move over to the Denali, it'll look around for the Wi-Fi connections, and now it sees 11 Wi-Fi connections. Obviously, it's a more powerful device, so it can reach out and find more, even though the Denali is only 2.4 gigahertz, and the Spruce is both 5 and 2.4 gigahertz. It sees a little bit less because it's up higher and it has a longer reach. They said the Denali specs can reach up to 1.5 miles away for Wi-Fi, which is a pretty good distance, but you're seeing exactly the proof of that here when I can see from 7 on the Spruce router, and then I see the 11 on the Denali. Next up, we'll move over to the Wi-Fi setup. And what we're going to do here is just create the naming convention for your Wi-Fi solution inside your RV. So again, now that we are on the Spruce, it has both the 2 gigahertz and the 5 gigahertz. You'll see that I have two options now. So you can rename here something that's good for you. We may name ours, as you saw earlier, Momo. So that's the stuff inside our home. That's our cat, by the way. So we name one. You can name one here, like for me, it would be Momo 2.4. And over on the 5 gigahertz band, we name it Momo 5. So we can see the difference between those, and then we can walk back and forth between home and RV, and all of our devices still connect up. So we like it that way. And finally, I explained to you earlier on the guest network, you could do that here as well, so that the Spruce router would have the ability to transmit a guest network. That's up to you, but you have the ability down here to create a guest network. And then finally, we're back at the main setup. If you had a cellular device, either a hotspot or your phone, you would set it up here. So if I wanted to plug in my hotspot into the connection on the router, I could do so with the USB cable coming out of the phone and then into the router, and then it would detect it and find it here. So then that gives you the ability that we talked about earlier, where you mesh those networks together. That's combining the power of the phone, its internet capability, and then the Wi-Fi from the RV park, their capability. So you get a more powerful internet connection. You get the bandwidth from the phone and the bandwidth from the RV park, which makes a very good solution overall. Alrighty folks, that's about a wrap to this video. Hey, I hope you got a lot out of it. I really enjoyed putting this one together for you. I know we had one earlier on the version 2.5 years ago, so I like bringing you new stuff, and hopefully this provided you the information on how to configure and set up your system so that it's a success for you. If you have a moment, maybe hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so yet. I look forward to providing more videos to you in the future. Thanks for watching, and have a great day. Bye. So if you haven't done so yet, please remember to hit the subscribe button and then hit the little bell so that it reminds you when we post new videos.